formula for a professional career and how it relates to a person's life is generally the same no matter the occupation. You work year after year to build a solid foundation, and then one day the time comes to let it all go and move on to the next stage of your life. That's where we are right now with Robert Englund in his legendary role as Freddy Krueger. Robert will turn 79 this summer and has been publicly vocal about his decision to no longer don the fedora and razor glove, aside from lending his voice work to an animated project. Although it is difficult to let go of Robert, I think it might be fun to bat around some ideas on who might be the next best Fred, so to speak. Bill Skarsgård is the first actor that comes to mind. He obviously cemented his position in the upper echelon of horror history with his phenomenal performances as both Count Orlok and Pennywise. His ability to transform his body and voice would bring unpredictable elements to a reboot of Freddy, and maybe even save the filmmakers a bit of trouble by keeping things in camera and eliminating the need to add expensive VFX in post. Ray Nicholson is another actor that I think would make a great choice. He has his father's natural creeped out charisma that seems to toggle between badass and batshit crazy at the drop of a hat. His face under Freddy's burned makeup would definitely be something to behold. What about Freddie Highmore? Sure, he's not really known for his crazy intensity. Even his turn as Norman Bates was a bit soft around the edges, but couldn't that make an interesting portrayal of Freddy Krueger? Pair Highmore's lanky build and subdued delivery with the hostile, murderous cunning of Freddy. That might be the ticket to reinventing the character entirely. Speaking of lanky build, I can't help but think of Austin Abrams, an actor I'd never heard of until his incredible performance in Weapons. He could bring an entirely new energy to Freddy, a sort of wide-eyed, desperate psychopath, haunted by chaos but also thriving on it, almost like Freddy is a dream junkie. Now that's a wild idea. And while we're in the realm of wild ideas, why not add another to the mix? What about 6'5" super hunk Jacob Elordi? Now I know it seems like a long shot, but after his Oscar-nominated swing as Frankenstein's monster, I think it's safe to say he isn't afraid to cover that chiseled moneymaker with prosthetics as long as the role is right. Also, think about it for a minute. Freddy always had a sort of horny creep vibe slithering beneath the surface. Imagine you take a fantasy man like Jacob and you turn him into a badly burned sex pest. That would definitely disturb audiences on a whole new level. In the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Robert Englund's performances are 99% of the draw. With a guy like Adrian Brody, whose incredible acting can make a shit film tolerable, we could get a Freddy with depth, rivaling classical villains like the Phantom of the Opera or Jekyll and Hyde. Brody wouldn't be just another horror monster. He'd be an antagonist that commands the audience like a hero, much like the original Freddy eventually became. Brody's face and frame are near perfect too. That nose of his gives Freddy's revenge vibes. I can't help but wonder what he might look like under Part 2's Witch Freddy makeup. Now comes the time in the video where I get a bit selfish and suggest one of my favorite actors to don the fedora. Michael Shannon is criminally undercast. His ability to communicate with the deep valleys of his eyes and face, along with his subtle yet aggressive body language, would really make Shannon's Freddy more physically foreboding than ever before. If you've seen films like Take Shelter, Shotgun Stories, The Shape of Water, Revolutionary Road, or even Shannon's turn as Nelson Van Alden in the HBO series Boardwalk Empire, then you've witnessed his ability to go from subdued to insane in a millisecond. His range is nearly endless, and his bold charisma would be on full display as a nightmarish killer. Next up is an actor that I'm not a massive fan of, but his talent is absolutely undeniable. Benedict Cumberbatch could just as easily be famous for his deep, seductive voice as he is for his superb acting talent and unusual name. Unlike the post work they needed to do on Robert Englund's voice, you really wouldn't need much alteration. Just turn Cumberbatch loose and let the man work. All jokes aside, I think Doctor Strange could be a great choice. I've yet to see him explore a role that's even comparable to the darkness that Nightmare on Elm Street lives in. Is Cumberbatch too clean cut? Well, I thought Doctor Strange 2 was Sam Raimi welcoming him into the world of horror. Okay, from one BC to the next, how cool would it be if Heisenberg himself played Freddy Krueger? Can you imagine Malcolm's dad haunting your dreams? Now, I love me some Hal, but setting aside the jokes one more time, I really do think Bryan Cranston could deliver something amazing here. We talked about Michael Shannon's range, but does anyone on this list even hold a candle to Bryan Cranston? One minute he's a mixture of Danny Tanner and Buster Keaton, the next he's Jimmy Cagney and Tony Montana. He could really sell us a new layer of comedy similar to the jokes Freddy eventually became known for, only this time they'll really be punctuated by an equally new level of brutality. Now at this point in time, it really pains me to bring this actor up because of the unfair controversy surrounding his name in recent news. The incredible but sometimes off his rocker Quentin Tarantino said a lot of unkind things about one Paul Dano, and although I do love QT, I wholeheartedly reject everything he said. Dano has real talent. He's a clear cinephile who can glide between genres and emotions like a chameleon. He has a sort of everyday man appearance with a voice like your friendly neighbor down the street. He could really kill it as a soft-spoken, reserved Kruger who doesn't inspire fear with loud shock value, but instead builds levels of dread through careful restraint and haunted monologues. Now, the next actor on this list might take the crown for most sinister contestant. If you saw Rob Zombie's 31, you'll likely remember Richard Brake's Doomhead and how his minimalized performance saved the film entirely. His crooked smile and the deep caverns of his face already emulate Freddy's grin and bone structure. Brake could pull it off with minimal prosthetics and simply rely on his wiry voice and monstrous on-camera presence to see it through. With numerous horror credits and multiple swings as a murderous killer under his belt, I think we could confidently count on Brake to channel the type of evil needed to reinvent an icon like Freddy Krueger. Iconic villains. Now that's an interesting category of characters. Near the very top of that list is he who must not be named. You know who, the Dark Lord, the heir of Slytherin. His mother called him Tom Marvolo Riddle, but we all know him as Lord Voldemort. Ralph Fiennes gave the performance of his career as the infamous Dark Wizard. His character bleeds into every corner of the story, which means Fiennes' performance had to mirror a monster with that very same influence. He had to convince audiences that he was the very image of fear for an entire world of people. I think he delivered that shit 6 days a week and twice on Sunday, which isn't a huge surprise because Fiennes has played killer villains before in Red Dragon, The Menu, and even in Schindler's List. Fiennes' presence on screen is often quiet but simultaneously intense. He seems to approach evil as something rational and doesn't appear troubled by playing characters lacking any semblance of morality. I'm happy to see Walton Goggins popping up in so many things these days. I've been a fan since I saw him in House of a Thousand Corpses over 2 decades ago. He has that same Kruger facial structure with Richard Brake and Robert Englund, only this time it comes complete with a twangy voice and a sort of Lee Van Cleef charisma you can catch in Django Unchained, The Hateful Eight, and most recently as the Ghoul in Fallout. Goggins also has some tremendous comedy chops, arguably the best on this list, rivaled by only Bryan Cranston. Imagine Goggins as Freddy dripping in that same villainous swagger, but then mix in a little bit of Baby Billy from The Righteous Gemstones. It could be a disaster, or it could be something incredible. Who really knows? Willem Dafoe has to be mentioned on this list because he's undoubtedly one of the greatest character actors to ever work in cinema. He has experience in every genre, every dark and dusty corner of every single category. He's a forever meme, all because he gave one of the best comic book performances as the Green Goblin in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Dafoe is a classically trained theater actor whose characters seem to swallow him whole. He disappears on screen and returns totally transformed. He has that same sort of angular, expressive face mentioned numerous times in this video, and I love the fact that his voice is equally as multi-dimensional as his acting. Imagine Willem Dafoe turned loose as Freddy Krueger, pointed, deliberate, meticulous, and confident, but at the same time he's a maniacal switchblade. I think Dafoe's iteration would likely be closest to Robert's original portrayal, simply because the two have roots so deeply in the theater. At 70 years old, they'll need to make the film much sooner than later if Willem Dafoe's ever going to play Freddy. A video like this could go on for days, so to wrap it all up, I think it's best that we touch on the actor that probably has the most demand to play Freddy Krueger from fans, and that is our boy, Kevin Norwood Bacon. His body type and facial structure are perfect, and much like the previous mentions, he has multiple villainous roles in his filmography. For me, it's his performance in James Wan's Death Sentence that makes him the best candidate for Freddy. In that film, Bacon's character is a multi-layered guy. Husband, father, boss, hockey cheerleader, the epitome of a family man. But one violent night warps his life, and we slowly see the character become the very same monster who destroyed his happiness in the first place. As much as it hurts to let go of Robert as Freddy, we just have to do it. Remember, Freddy isn't just a beloved horror monster, he's a literal pop culture icon. He's up there with classic movie monsters like Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman. These creatures and characters become immortal through cinema and surrounding culture, and they're actually designed to outlive their creators. Look how many iterations of Frankenstein's monster we've seen. Look how many Draculas, how many Wolfman. Hell, Jason and Michael have been here for years with different actors donning the mask with each new film. I just hope the Craven estate doesn't let the franchise die, because Freddy deserves a second life. We have a whole slew of great horror filmmakers chomping at the bit to resurrect Freddy for a new generation. Nobody's saying they shouldn't be picky in who they choose to steer the ship. All I'm asking is that they stop dragging their feet. Sure, Wes Craven created Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street, but without the fans and our steadfast dedication to these films, Freddy wouldn't be the household name he is today. Either way you look at it, Freddy doesn't just belong to the Craven estate. He belongs to the fans too. Thanks for sticking around if you made it this far. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you like content like this. Also, let me know in the comments if you think this video deserves a part 2. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay safe out there.